Now on Indianapolis This Week.
Well, I'm not sure anything went wrong. I only had a few weeks.
Glenda Ritz explains why she's out of the governor's race and what's next for her future. Plus, a Sunday morning exclusive. Democratic governor candidate John Gregg goes one-on-one with Raphael. And fixing Indiana's crumbling roads and bridges. Who's to blame for the problem and where to find the money to repair them.
From RTV6, the Indy Channel, this is Indianapolis This Week with Raphael Sanchez.
Welcome to Indianapolis This Week, everyone. I'm Jason Fechner. Raphael standing by to join us, and we invite you to join us as well right now by going to our Indy This Week account on Twitter. Follow us and be a part of the conversation. And we begin with more fallout from that bombshell announcement we told you about last week. Glenda Ritz dropping out of the race for governor. It follows a short-lived campaign that hit several stumbling blocks along the way, including the campaign finance report that may have violated state law. Now Glenda Ritz is sitting down with RTV6 State House reporter Katie Hines.
Let's talk first of all about why you decided not to pursue a run for governor.
Well, actually, I decided to continue for re-election for superintendent is what I really did. I've been going around to a lot of beginning of the school year activities, and the hum out there is, Glenda, you've started some great things. And so I just decided I needed to stick with my current position and finish what I've started. We have many programs that we have underway to improving schools, including the turnaround initiatives that we have. We've turned around 103 schools, over 60,000 students in our public school systems. We've got a network now started for school districts that may be lower performing and getting that started. We just have so many initiatives that we're going on, and then we have an increase in poverty, so I have more wraparound services to make sure we're providing to kids. And then I think the fourth big bucket would be, attracting and retaining teachers. And so I just felt in my heart that I needed to continue the work that I started.
Do you think it was a mistake to run for governor?
You know what? I don't think it was a mistake at all. There are things, I need a new governor. I definitely need a governor that's going to support public education. I felt that I can be that person, but when it really came down to serving children, I needed to decide, I just decided, my heart and my passion and the work I've started needs to be a superintendent. And I'll work to my utmost to support John Gregg to make sure that we are headed in a good direction to get a new governor.
I know you raised $30,000 in the first half of this year, which was a lot less than Democrat John Gregg, Governor Mike Pence. Do you feel that there were problems getting your campaign kind of running off the ground, or what went wrong?
Well, I'm not sure anything went wrong. I only had a few weeks, so I didn't announce until June 4th. Started a whole brand new campaign. A lot of things come with that. John Gregg's been running for governor for a while. So no, I have to start my campaign no matter what office I'm running for. So the same kind of setup, same kind of things happen. I have to raise money. So no, those really weren't the factors in me making my decision.
The struggles that we have seen between you and Governor Pence during the last couple of years are emblematic of some of the frustrations that people here in Indiana have with politics. Talk to me about why it was difficult to see eye to eye and find common ground on an issue as important as education.
Well, I feel that the agendas are very stark in contrast. I feel that Governor Pence has a political agenda for just simply creating more schools. That does not improve schools. It's not a strategy for our economic development. I, on the other hand, want to see schools improved, put in a system to actually make that happen. I want to see economic strategies tied with the education policy that I have been proceeding with to make sure that we're improving schools, because we have great needs here in the state of Indiana. So I disagree fundamentally with where he's coming from. He has a political agenda as opposed to me. I have an educational agenda. From the start, I've not been the politician. I am the educator. I feel I'm an expert in that role, and I don't really feel the governor is willing to actually work with me to make sure that we see that we are making opportunities for our kids and build the economy in Indiana.
Talk about your priorities for the next legislative session.
Well, one of my biggest priorities is going to be teacher retention and attracting good teachers. I'm forming the Blue Ribbon Teacher Commission to study that in full. As a result of that, and then involving more stakeholders, I will, from my office, have recommendations for the General Assembly to actually work with that big need that we're going to be having. So in the state of Indiana, we have a proliferation of schools. We serve almost over 2,000 schools. We have a demand-supply issue right now, and it's been building for the last several years. So, you know, when you have that many schools and we're moving around the same staff people, we literally have positions that aren't filled. And how do we get those filled? How do we make sure we have quality educators? How do we retain the quality educators? I'm sure there's going to be a lot of conversation about that topic going forward.
General Assembly had increased education funding in the current budget by more than $400 million for education. Do you feel that's enough?
Well, you know what? They increased it for schools in general as a total pot, but we're starting to, each of the pots of schools are starting to vie for the same money. That bothers me, and as I said, we have a proliferation of schools. Indiana will not be able to sustain, in my opinion, the continuation of schools and adding more and more and more to our roster and be able to fill the need for teachers, nor be able to actually sustain the amount of money that's needed to actually give to all of those entities. So I don't see it as a good economic strategy at all, and feel that we need to be calling a halt to the expansion of schools in the state of Indiana with all the different pots that we have going on. And we have to step back and have a real conversation in Indiana about how we're going to attract and retain teachers, how we're going to support all of these different schools, and make sure that it happens.
Superintendent, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
You are most welcome, Katie.
Our thanks to Katie and once again to Glenda Ritz. She also tells us that Department of Education staff members are reviewing the most recent troubles for CTB on grading I-STEP tests, including the answers marked wrong when they were actually right. She also says the state may take action against the company. Still to come, he's now the obvious front-runner for the Democratic nomination for governor. Our Sunday morning exclusive with John Gregg. That's next on Indianapolis This Week.
Erica Fly, Todd Connor, and meteorologist Kevin Gregory. The news at 5 on RTV6, the Indy Channel.
And welcome back to Indianapolis This Week as we turn to our Sunday morning exclusive with Democratic candidate John Gregg. He's leading the race for the Democratic nomination for governor. And as we just heard, he's now got the endorsement from Glenda Ritz. Now he's going one-on-one with Raphael.
Joining us now is Indiana's former House Speaker, John Gregg, who's also the Democratic candidate for governor for the state of Indiana. Sir, welcome to the program. Are you your party's front-runner?
You know, those labels, I think a lot of times get people excited and talking about things that really aren't important. My focus has been all along on Governor Pence and the election in November of 16. But I can tell you that I am extremely excited and honored, very honored to have had the endorsement of State School Superintendent Glenda Ritz. And that was something that I was really pleased to pick up. Glenda and I intend to campaign together, and she's going to be very important, going to be a go-to person for me on education policy. And I think it's more important that we start talking about issues rather than focus on wondering who's going to be the nominee.
Before we get to the issues, did you speak to her before she dropped out last week?
Yes. But Glenda and I and Karen Talion and I have been friends. Karen Talion and I have been friends for many years. Glenda and I campaigned together, of course, in 2012 on. I talked to all of them on a regular basis. They called me. We called them. I like to consider us all having been friends. You know, you can be friends in this business and maybe strive at the same goals. And the goals that Karen Talion and Glenda Ritz and I had and still have is to have better schools, better roads, better jobs, a better Indiana for all Hoosiers.
But do you still believe that you're the guy that can beat the incumbent Mike Pence?
Well, I do feel that I can beat. I do feel I can beat Governor Pence. Our message is pretty simple, pretty clear. Our message is not dealing with social issues; those do nothing but divide us. I think as governor, my focus will be on education. It'll be on pre-kindergarten, preschool, K through 12, affordability of college, vocational education to get these students in these much-needed jobs. Electricians, pipe trades, welders. We've got so many business people. I've been in Jasper and Fort Wayne this week, from the north to to the South, and people need people who have skills in addition to people with bachelor degrees, and it's important we do that. Our infrastructure we've been really talking about since 2011. That's in the headlines now. And then talking about the relationship between skills, training, and education with these good-paying jobs.
So let's talk about the issues. On Thursday, the governor talked about hiring more caseworkers for the Department of Child Services, more than 100. Is that enough, or would you hire more? And is there money to hire more?
Well, I think it's always a question of priorities, and I'm glad to see the governor had done this. I wish he would have done it before and should have done it before. It's a step in the right direction. We have some real serious problems and have had for some time in that area. You know, children should be a priority in Indiana, and I do think this is a step in the right direction. We can always find money for areas that we feel are a priority in a state budget. Remember, that budget's $28+ billion with a B dollars. So there's money out there that you can look and cut in different places, or at least move from column A to column B. Children's definitely one of these areas. We've got a surplus that we need to be looking at these children-related matters, but we also need to be looking at our roads and infrastructure.
So let's talk about that, because the governor also is talking about dipping into the reserves in hopes of looking at the infrastructure in light of what's happened in Lafayette on Interstate 65 and that bridge, which still remains closed. Also talked that the big money, though, would not be able to kick in till the budget can be reopened in 2017. Right. Can we wait till 2017? And how much of that reserve should go to infrastructure?
You know, we started talking a long time ago about the states not funding adequately infrastructure. And there's more than I-65. That's the one that grabs the attention right now. But, you know, there has been a major bridge in northwestern Indiana that the state literally abandoned and gave back to local government in the East Chicago area. And that was 3 to 4 years ago they started that process. There's Indiana 156. It's down in the southeast corner between Rising Sun and Vevey, Indiana. 2 small towns, but this road connects a casino, and it's closed. We've got problems. I have heard the former NDOT commissioner say that almost 1/5 of our bridges will be unsafe to travel over. They'll be obsolete, which means they have to be shut down in the next 20 years if we don't do something. We've got to quit posturing, and we've got to come up with some ways not to finance but to fund. So this surplus we've got is there because we've cut monies to schools, local governments, a lot of programs to children and seniors, and our highway funding. So it's time we start realizing that we've got some needs, and we've got to address those needs. And it's just not roads and bridges, but it's wastewater, it's sewer treatment, it's storm sewers for our cities and towns to grow economically.
And final question is the issue of coal. In Indiana, we have a lot of coal, which helps with electricity. Does the EPA need to stay out of Indiana in light of the new rules? You know,
I come from an energy background. I worked for 2 Fortune 500 companies before in mining. In Kentucky is the best example that I like to point to. In the state of Kentucky, whose entire economy is tied to coal, their governor sat down with the EPA and started having discussions. Rather than file suit and rush to a judgment, they have been working on a settlement to help the utilities, the coal industry, the people working both of them, and to keep the utility rates down for manufacturing. And I think where the governor made a mistake was just, without trying to talk with EPA, was trying to at least try to negotiate something. Sometimes you have to file suit, but when you just file suit without talking, the only people make money on that are lawyers. He and I both know that. We went to law school together.
John Gregg, Democratic candidate for governor for the state of Indiana, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Good to be here again.
Come back anytime.
And I won't get you confused the next time.
Please don't do that. Thank you, sir.
Not easy to do. Our thanks again to John Gregg. We should also point out that we've extended several invitations this summer to Governor Mike Pence to appear right here on the show, and we hope to have him here in the near future. Well, as I just talked about, it's been shut down for more than a week, but does what's happening on I-65 point to a much larger problem on Indiana's roads and bridges? And who's to blame for it? Our insiders are standing by next on Indianapolis This Week. And welcome back to Indianapolis This Week. We are joined now by our political insiders this morning, Democrat Adam Kirsch, of course, Republican Jennifer Hollowell, and Mary Beth Schneider. Thanks all for being here.
Thank you.
How you feeling?
Well,
great.
Just fine.
Good. Let's start at the State House. Governor Pence, of course, announcing on Thursday that he has authorized the Department of Child Services to hire more than 100 new caseworkers. It's a move that comes after the ACLU sued because of growing caseloads statewide. And let's start with you. Your thoughts on that proposal?
Well, fundamentally, it's Mike Pence being late again. We had the ACLU sue. We had Senate Democrats leading on this issue for months. And we finally see Governor Pence come out and do something. But it's even just to get us to the bare minimum. He's got to do more, and he's got to be proactive on issues facing Indiana.
Jennifer?
That's ridiculous. They started hiring 100 new caseworkers in March, and what we've seen, sadly, is an incredible increase in the number of cases of child neglect and abuse. And there was actually a 26% increase of cases this year over last year. So this need has really grown. And so the governor, did the right thing. It's obviously a huge priority for him and for all of us. And so he took action to add more caseworkers, but it was out of a growing need.
There was a growing need, so I think the truth is actually somewhere in between here, because he is also late on doing it. There has been big concerns for a few years now about the need for more caseworkers, and you had reversions in DCS. A lot of people thought that they were already falling short of the mark, including some Republicans in the legislature were very concerned about this. But that's coupled and it's exacerbated now by having these higher numbers of kids in need.
Yeah, so I mean, a 26% increase is significant. And unfortunately, a lot of it is linked to an increase in the drug problem. And, it's really just all kinds of sad situations that have brought this to the forefront. But, I mean, the governor's taking action as he should. And I think in time they're going to start hiring right away.
Late or not, a problem the state definitely has to deal with right now either way. Plenty of talk, of course, about money as well. When it comes to highways and infrastructure, the shutdown of I-65 near Lafayette, word on Friday the bridge over Wildcat Creek there will now be closed until mid-September. Working to get more money out of the reserves for those infrastructure repair improvements. 1,900 plus bridges across the state deemed deficient right now. Too little, too late.
There are so many terrible things about this. We learned also on Friday that the contractor who put in that bridge a decade ago apparently was told about an artesian well, and they put a pillar in there anyway, causing problems. So the problem goes back to bad construction at the beginning, the failure to be able to figure out some kind of decent detour. A lot of people are questioning why can't they have two lanes on the southbound lanes. The state says they can't, and it's just the tip of the iceberg with infrastructure problems. And it's not just in Indiana, it's all over the United States. And I always feel sometimes that we are one disaster away, like they had up in Minnesota a few years ago, from just being the worst situation possible.
There's so many problems statewide when it comes to infrastructure right now. Jennifer, where do we find the money to fix these issues?
Well, I think the governor indicated this week that he is willing to look at using some of the money from the surplus to do that. And I think that there are a lot of discussions taking place now about finding additional funds and building that into next year's budget. But just since the governor took office, they've increased funding by more than $500 million in infrastructure. As Mary Beth said, I mean, infrastructure is an issue across the country, as a lot of these things have happened. And we saw in Indianapolis, just a couple of years ago, Mayor Ballard putting the deal together for Rebuild Indy, which tackled a lot of infrastructure needs in Indianapolis. But there are still hundreds of thousands of dollars more in needs, and we just have to prioritize and address them.
Adam, too much money coming out of the reserves for these problems?
Absolutely not. We need to, we collect revenues as a state to fund critical services like infrastructure. Having $2 billion in surplus, if we've got roads and bridges that are quite literally crumbling and failing, we have to do something. We have to do it now.
All right, let's talk now about the mayor's race. Republican Chuck Brewer this week spelling out his 12-point public safety plan, including more police officers, body cameras, and a real-time intelligence gathering center like the one in St. Louis. Jennifer, of course, you work directly with this campaign, so I'm sure you're all on board with this plan.
I do. I think it's brilliant. But no, it's an incredibly comprehensive plan, and your station did very good coverage of it and some of the different angles. But some of the things that really pop out that are different is calling for 21 new social resource officers. This is essentially tying social workers into IMPD to help people find treatment options, counseling options, things like that that will help prevent crime and address needs in the future, with especially the drug problem, as we mentioned. Called for a heroin task force. You know, obviously there are 12 points. I won't go through all of them. Those are a couple of things that really stand out, as well as a very innovative approach for technology, for a real-time intelligence center that will give police officers a lot more information and tools than they've ever had before. And then the Second Chance Indianapolis, which is what you all highlighted last night, for second chances for ex-offenders so that we can get them back into the community and not turn back to a life of crime.
And Adam, 20 seconds left, just a few weeks after Joe Hogsett's plan was unveiled. The big differences between them?
Well, actually about 2 months after, and the big difference is Joe Hogsett identified funding mechanisms, put a 17-page plan out there,
He did
and
not
Chuck
identify
Brewer put out bullet
mechanisms,
points.
and you can Google it and find that out. He absolutely did not identify funding mechanisms.
I'm just happy Chuck Brewer's finally joined the debate with a 2-page plan to Joe's 17-page.
Mary Beth and I will just hang out over here. This conversation with our insiders continues right now on Twitter. Join us right there. Find them on Twitter. Join the debate with Jennifer, Adam, Mary Beth, and the entire team anytime. And while you're there, follow our official account at Indy This Week and get up to date on the top political news 24/7.
Storm Team 6 meteorologist Kyle Mounts with a check of your forecast. If you've got a pool, you're going to be a very popular person today. That's a place to set up shop. 88 degrees for the high today. Heat index going to feel like we're in the lower 90s from time to time. That UV index will be in the very high range, so don't forget the sunscreen. We'll have a spotty shower or thunderstorm possible, but most areas dry. Your rain chance only 20% as we head through the afternoon. And you notice into this evening, then any of those showers will quickly fade away. High temperature today, 87 in Edinburgh and Danville. Will make it to 88 in Beech Grove. High temperatures around that 87, 88 degree mark for you. Crawfordsville right on into Kokomo. A little cooler for you in Muncie at 85 degrees, and we'll approach 90 in Seymour as well as Rockville. Here's a look at your 7-day planning forecast. Rain chances increase for us Monday through Wednesday, so you'll need to keep the umbrella handy. Highs as a result a little cooler, around 80 by Wednesday afternoon.
Finally, on this Sunday, we want to send our congratulations to Charles Bance. He is wrapping up his tenure as chancellor at IUPUI, a position he's held for the past 12 years. He has been an integral part of IUPUI's focus on teaching and research. He's not leaving completely, though. He'll continue on there as part of the faculty at IUPUI's School of Liberal Arts. Thank you so much for joining us on Indianapolis This Week. For Katie, Raphael, and our entire team, have a great Sunday and a wonderful week.